Oh yeah.
You didn't hear us talking?
I've been busy. I'm like, man.
People be waking up talking
Right.
Jonathan walking around.
Did you have it?
Did you hear about the
It's December.
So, yo, what's up, people? We just finished our first class officially of the Street Dance Academy. And now we are just going to sit down and have a short talk back about, how we felt leading up to this point, how we felt the class went, but then ultimately talk a little bit about what our goals are with this entire situation here. So with me is, starting from my far left, Eccentric.
Hello.
He's with, of course, the Millennium Robots crew, now an instructor with the Heroes Rise Street Dance Academy. He's also crew with So Swift. Are you with them?
No.
Oh, Venus Fly and
Digital Natives.
Digital Natives.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm in that crew too.
Yeah, he is.
And then we got our other crewmate here, Bosco. He's obviously with the Millennium Robots, and then the Heroes Rise Street Dance Experience. In addition to his own crew back home, Paranoia, and he's joining us here today from Central Africa. And then we have Jonathan. What's your street name again?
J1.
J1. That's right. J1. And he is a full-time now faculty instructor for street dance at the University of Dayton, which is dope. And then what crews are you with? Are you affiliated?
Currently unaffiliated, actually. Yeah. I used to be in a couple of crews, but ever since then, I think it's kind of funny because my crews, they kind of moved on, and everybody kind of moved on to bigger things. Everybody's still dancing, but we're just like in different places.
Gotcha.
I was in Riptide crew. That was my original crew in Austin, Texas. When I was in LA, I got down with New Styles crew. So shout out to New Styles crew wherever y'all are. Makito, Take, Lil Bug, I know where you are. Ron Maz.
Yeah.
There's a couple others there, Momar, some others like that. John Books didn't get down with us actually.
Really? Oh, okay.
John Books is his own crew.
Well, I know they have a crew, but I thought they was down with y'all too,
Yeah, I think John Books likes to get down with Charles, but
interesting.
But
right
yeah,
on.
I've been solo for about 10 years now, so.
Well, you with us now.
Yeah.
Right? In the academy with us. So, first, I guess we'll start out with what we didn't get to talk about publicly was how we felt about the intensive. So, anybody can kind of jump in there.
I thought the intensive was really good. The initial one that we had, it pretty much laid the bricks down for what we wanted to start doing. And you and I, we both worked in studios around our respective cities and intermittent in between, Dayton and Cincinnati, both of us. And often the time, it's not a complete mix, like studios are absolutely horrible, but sometimes we find that they don't give street styles the whole respect and whole focus. It's more of a like, oh, you guys can take a hip hop class or a popping class or this type of class. So I think our initial induction really kind of showed that we want to bring a very focused respectability to our individual teachings. So I think it went really well.
Right on. Bosco, you got anything to add to that? Anybody else? No?
I really thought the first intensive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it was really dope. So I came in a little late, sorry y'all. So, but trying to find the place and everything. But yeah, I think it's really good because I think we're gonna keep the classes here, right, for the time being.
Yeah, definitely.
Right now, just this is a nice place. The space is big. It's bigger than the spaces that I normally teach out in Dayton. So the space is nice. I felt like it was safe too, so that's I think one of the more important things nowadays with COVID happening and everything. So so you haven't signed up yet, you better sign up because maybe, you know, one day we'll reach maximum capacity and we can't take any more people in this room. And stuff like that. So, but it was packed, you know, it was really nice, and we had like really quick classes with Bosco, with Clips and Eccentric and Sparrow and Kento. That's everybody, right? Yeah. So it was really nice to just kind of like see the diversity of what this will become. Yes, really cool.
Indeed. So like, for me, just getting that off the ground, just having it happen was a big deal. You know, having this, you know, big shout out to Elonzo. He really hooked me up with this. He's always supported what I have going on. So big shout out to him. But just once this came in, everything kind of felt super real. You know what I mean? Like, I looked at it, I was like, wait, this is happening. And you know, we came into class and the space was packed. We were at capacity. Like, it was really dope, especially seeing all those people who hadn't originally had a lot of experience with street dance, you know, come in and see all those styles. So that was definitely a dream come true. And then to know that we're going to be able to continue, that is what we need. Because there's been tons of workshops, you know, but having consistent representation is what we've been lacking, especially here in Cincinnati. When we talk about representation of the American street style dances, like with regard to Cincinnati, Dayton, you know, we've had some power hitting. We have some really serious street dancers here, like internationally known street dancers. And the fact that it's been such an uphill battle trying to get studios to hire these people, to bring them in, to teach classes, but then also to, you know, find work, find jobs. How do you all feel like in your different areas of experience, how has it been, number one, being a street dancer in this area? And then number two, how do you kind of see something like what we're doing fit into the grand scheme of things regarding dance, class, art, performance art, whatever, in the scene, Cincinnati and Dayton?
I can start.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, you know, this is my second year here, so I haven't been here for a long time. I came from Texas, so I know that in Texas, which is I think kind of similar to here, but the difference is in Texas it's so spread out. So sometimes it's difficult to find a practice spot where all the street styles can meet, and or even just like one particular street style to meet, like all the poppers meet up, you know, all the B-boys meet up, and the B-girls and stuff like that. I think with this, since, you know, Cincy, Dayton, Columbus even, they're kind of like closer together, I think that it's really nice if we could just all work together, like different people from all the different places and stuff, and also be able to get the word out that this thing is here. I know there's other, you know, studios and stuff like that happening in the different cities, but just like specifically here, I think it could grow locally here first in Cincinnati and expand out. If I say my piece about breaking, because that's like, you know, that's my love, b-boying, breaking. My vision is kind of like similar to what's happening simultaneously in different parts. I'm actually connected with Break Free. Jeremy, shout out to Jeremy, just shout out to Moy, Champions program that they started just a couple of months ago, but they've been having an academy for a long time. I think going about 10 years now for the kids. So that's based in Houston, but they're expanding, right? So there's a Kansas City Break Free, there's a Phoenix Break Free now, there's a Houston one, but now it's online with COVID. And I think that was part of the thing that you were messaging us about, having online videos, you know, like having online videos that you could refer to, and also even live sessions that you could do online, like over Zoom or Google Meetup or something like that. So if you know, and then again, coming back to breaking, I know there's a lot of things going on. Jerome's kid doing his thing in Seattle, Kid Glide's doing his thing in New York. I think out in Nevada, I think Knuckleheads and Battleborn's doing their kids academy there too.
Mm-hmm.
So to make it worthwhile and sustainable, talking about careers and like experiences, I think like youth is the future. So like the younger generation, the next generation, we can cultivate something like that here in this and be the face of the Midwest. Like I think that's really appropriate because, you know, like this is Funky City, you know, like Cincy Dayton is where, you know, the home of the funk, you know, music wise, dance wise, all that stuff. And so we can bring back that funk, you know, back out here because, you know, like everything's kind of like based on that funky, you know, that soul that you mentioned in the class earlier. Like you gotta have that soul. And we can represent the Midwest as far as academy goes and get these kids, you know, actually learning techniques for each different style. That would be awesome because then you can actually start having a league of kids dancers and they could travel, you know, they could travel to different, once we can travel again, obviously. We can travel again and we can actually travel with the kids and we can actually exchange with the other kids from the other different places. But for now, even, we can do the same thing over on the internet. So we can actually have live sessions and live ciphers and live battles over the internet with like all these different places, but we could be the house or the home over out here in the Midwest and / East Coast. I think we're closer to the East Coast too. Like you know, like Ohio is kind of like at that juncture, so it's really cool.
You know what's interesting about what you were talking about is that with like a street dance academy, for most people is a new idea, and for not most, many people, and then for more people, it's something they've never even thought about until recently. But there have actually been a lot of street dance classes, or not classes, academies around the country where, you know, but most of them have been breaking based because breaking has become the most, for lack of a better term, commercialized of the street style dances, most monetized of the street style dances.
The Olympics is coming out, so it's also
larger,
a lot of people outside of the Olympics, before the Olympics,
Red Bull. And then Monster jumps in, and then even before that, Adidas and Puma were working on things like, so yeah, breaking it makes sense that breaking.
Levi's.
That makes sense for breaking, but now like these things are starting to become more all styles, you know, like the academies are starting to be actual street dance academies where they're hosting a lot of many of the different street style dances. So I feel like, you know, to piggyback what you were saying about training the youth and getting everybody together for a foundation, that's definitely like the main goal, right? We know we can't do this forever. The whole point of creating a school is to teach people so they can do it later. And hopefully that catches on, I think it will. But with regard to like bringing it back to what we are actually doing here, and based on what we saw at the intensive, and I'm wondering if, you know, if you feel like this is something that can actually take hold in Cincinnati, and if you feel like your experiences outside of what we do together reinforce that idea that Cincinnati is ready for a street dance academy. And whether that is important or not, whether they're ready or not, you know, does it just have to be something to be done, or should we really consider if it's going to take?
I feel like it needs to take. Let me put it like that. Because I just think back to when I was a youth and I was learning dance and I was in my basement and I'm doing it by myself. You know, it's just like I would always see videos, you know, and of course there was no YouTube back then, so you are watching MTV consistently, and you're seeing these dancers, and you see the same dancer in different stars' videos, and I'm like, wait, isn't that the same dancer? Then you start to connect the dots and realize these people are getting hired and rehired. So it's like, okay, that's pretty cool, but where is the outlet for me to learn something like that in Ohio? You know, let's just take it out of Dayton, let's take it out of Cincinnati. In Ohio, where can I go and audition for a class or audition for a role like that? And if it's not auditioning for a role, where can I go to learn how to audition for a role like that? So I know not everybody who takes class, especially younger students, are in it for the long haul, but there are some that are in it for the long haul. And trust me, if you're not in it for the long haul, you might want to consider it because there is money to be made. But yeah, people have made long, extensive, and amazing careers out of it. It took me to Shanghai, you know, and I lived there dancing, you know. So I do think that it's very necessary to have something like this here. Like you and I have traveled, we've traveled all over the world and we've seen it multiple places. And first thing is like, why don't we have that? Why don't we have that? You know?
Yeah. And
we know several of our peers have their own dance academies where they're teaching foundational, you know, street dance and showing the youth that this is actually something that doesn't need to be minimized or compartmentalized inside of, you know, someone's myopic view. You need to have it bigger than what they are. And also piggybacking off that, when the way Vogue is taking off too, the House of Landon, the actual fashion House of Landon, had partnered up with the Vogue House of Landon. First time that has ever happened. And in Vogue, they often take these haute couture designer houses and make that their name, but there's never been a collab. They actually were in a commercial with Landon, which is just over the top. So you think about simply for dancing, and oftentimes because they had that outlet. They had a community that they could forge, and when people came to the community like, what's going on over here? Well, you need to go to the Heroes Rise Dance Academy and we'll show you.
Yeah. So, you know, it's, as you guys talk, I just come up with more and more ideas and questions because we've all been in the scene, all right? We are in the culture. We understand what street dance is about, where street dance comes from, you know, how street dance is done, et cetera, et cetera. Like we know that we're in the culture, we're in the scene. As frustrating as it is for us to see people who are not connected trying to benefit from a culture that they don't give back to, how do we go about not looking like, for lack of a better term, douchebags, being mean, being perceived as being mean by trying to educate these other studios, studio owners, and their students? How do we go about saying, yo, you know, you have to pay attention to what you're telling folks you're giving them. Number one, if you're telling them you're teaching let's say a hip hop class, and the hip hop class teaching is not hip hop, okay? How do we go about educating without looking like a bad guy, without looking like a hater? Or is that even a route, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's, of course you do have to give some sugar with the medicine, but certain things just have to be said at some point in time. And there's really no easy way to do it because I've experienced where if you kind of just dance around it, you know, if you see somebody doing something and you're like, that's not what that is, you know, of course, don't run into the class and just interrupt it, but, you know, you can right. I wouldn't want somebody to do something like that to me, you know, and it's just basically letting people know, like you go to the instructor and let them know, or find out what history they have, you know, like, hey, have you been doing this? Have you da-da-da-da-da? And if they can, not gatekeeping so much, but, you know, they can regurgitate back to you, yeah, I've done this, yeah, I've done that. You may want to direct them to further study things, because everybody, you have to meet people where they are in some terms. and everybody hasn't come to the levels that we are at. You know, some people are just starting out and just happen to land in a position, but it's not so much when you first see and you have to let them know that's not correct. It's once you let them know that's not correct and you return, you know, and you see the same thing happen. Oh, so you're doing this on purpose. So that's when, you know, you have to really put the kibosh down, and you have to let people know in the scene, like, hey, that's not real. You shouldn't really go to that studio because it seems like they're only grifting. They just want to make money off of the limited knowledge that they know, and they're not trying to expand their knowledge. Therefore, they're not trying to expand your knowledge. So once a person who might have heard that sees it, they can form their own opinion about it. And even though you may come out as being the bad guy, you really want to make sure that your skill set, your technique, your knowledge is the truth, you know, and is where you can take it back to the source. And, you know, I think that would hold up your argument.
Right on, right on. Yeah.
So me, I think as an artist, and you know, we have to understand that the way we always see ourselves, like we don't want to say something because we don't want to say something because other people will think like we rude or something, like we the bad person. What I want to say is the only way to protect our culture, our art, is like telling people what is good and what is not good. Like when you see someone do something, you have to say, okay, this is not good or this is good. And the person can learn more, and you can share the experience with the person according to what you already know. I don't know how to say that, but you know, I don't know how to say that in English. You know, it's kind of complicated. But what I want to say is, we have to tell people. We cannot expect people to know without telling them. That's what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
And going off of that, and also like going back to the whole question about it being like, you know, the academy being a home to cultivate these students, whether it's kids or young adults or adults, to learn new styles. I think like it comes down to we are a very, 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 very nice people. Like, we want you to come and we want you to share your flavor, right?
Yeah.
So we want you to share your creativity. We want you to share your unique style. We want you to share your individuality. We want you to share your upbringing, you know, all these things that come with it. It's all about sharing. And, you know, with that too, where I come from, which is, you know, like in the past few years, it's higher education. Like, mostly in college nowadays, the genre that they teach is modern and ballet. But if you were to have these foundations and these techniques, so if I say, you know, like hip hop technique, most of the dancers that I know is not yet gonna know what that is. Because, you know, like this whole thing with like, okay, well, what are you actually teaching? Are you teaching choreography? Because, you know, what you were saying in class earlier, oh, it's just choreo. It's just like basically personalized sequence movements that the teacher or the choreographer is teaching the student, but what is actually the students come walking away with? And so like having to focus on like, okay, this ultimately makes you a better dancer. Like whether your main thing is a jazz or ballet or contemporary or hip hop or whacking or popping or breaking, you know, it doesn't really matter what it is, but it makes you a better dancer overall. Like I didn't even know that whacking was gonna make me such a better dancer until I took a whacking class, you know, like so that's one of the things, which is actually pretty recently. It was before I took your class. Yeah. So we want you to come and we want you to share, but what is your foundational knowledge of it? Like what is the history? If I ask any of my mentors and the people that I look up to, the number one thing they always say like what should I do if I start teaching these dances, whether, you know, we're talking about other studios or at a college setting or here or there, different cities you're at. Like the number one thing they always say is you gotta know your history. So, and because the reason why they say history is number one is because you're honoring the people that came before you. And I think for me, that's the main thing. Like if I wasn't gonna tell you where these moves come from and who made it, and you know, then that means I'm dishonoring those people and disrespecting those people that came before me. Because even though I didn't directly maybe see that movement or that style from that person, somebody else that I got it from that person. So it's all this lineage thing, you know, like, so we're just honoring our elders, and that way we can actually pave the way and we can build the future by, again, sharing our knowledge, creativity, individuality, all that stuff in the classroom, in the cipher, in the battle, in the academia, you know, in the professional performance world, all the performances kind of combining together, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's really dope because you and I share that experience of the academic area where we're both teaching at the university level, and it's, you know, while I think spring semester will be the first semester I'm actually going to be teaching dancers and dance majors. Up until this point, they've all been, you know, non-dance majors, so people, bioengineers and stuff like that. I think I've got a couple musical theater kids this semester, but yeah, understanding how important the culture attached to these movements is. Like, you cannot just grab a move and say, I'm going to use this, and have put 4 of them together and call it a whole entire dance style, because we refer to these dances as styles, but honestly they're cultures, right? Yeah. All of them. They have their own lineage, their own cultural references, their own histories, the whole nine, right? So you just taking, like, deciding that you want to throw in some weak Bart Simpson somewhere, and you know, a couple Roger Rabbits or a Running Man or something, and then say I'm doing a hip hop set, when everything else regarding the foundation for hip hop is missing, and you know, you're just doing random movement between these steps and all of that. It's like you're doing a disservice not only to yourself but to your students, right? Like you all were just talking about, what are you getting? What are you giving your kids? What are, or whoever's taking your class, what are they walking away with? Like you also said this earlier in class. You've had classes that you've taken from people that you revere, that you think are really amazing artists. But because of the way the class was taught, they taught you choreography, they taught you steps, they taught you a sequence of stylized movement that they liked to a song. Right. Do you remember any of that stuff? No. No. Like literally the most important things I've learned personally were tips on technique at battles, at jams, at parties, you know? Where you would run into an OG or even somebody that's just been in it longer than you. And you see them hit something, you're like, ugh, what is that? And you ask them a question, yo, show me how to do it. And they will show you the mechanics, the technique, the basic foundation for that step, and then show you the move. So I agree, of course I agree. It's important to know the histories. Now how, and when communicating that, like, you know, J1 was just saying, you know, we want you to come, we want you to engage with us, we want to share this with you. But what about those people who are so guarded over their financial stability that they think you're going to take money out of their pockets? How do we deal with those people? Because obviously they are coming at it the entire, completely wrong way. Yeah. Right? First, you should love what you're doing in order to teach it. Yeah, you should have that passion for it. But if your motivation behind offering a certain class is, this class brings dollars in the studio, and then on top of that, you don't care who's teaching the class, it might be your niece or your cousin or somebody who has a long list of accolades that absolutely have nothing to do with their ability or knowledge in street culture, right? Because people always give you resumes and they'll be like, oh, we did this on this stage and we danced with this person and we danced with this person on this stage. And really, I mean, none of that matters to us in street dance. Like, you gotta tell us what pioneers you met, you know, or their students, you know, what jams you've been to, you know, how many battles have you been in, how many battles have you won, you know? Like, ultimately, it's about your connection to the culture that impresses us. So how do we bridge that gap? Like, how do we get these people who are focused on hosting a hip hop class and just using the name hip hop, but you're almost never gonna do hip hop dance in that class?
Yeah, I think that's also a connection to the culture. Like, just really explain to them, like, despite your...
I might like one of them kick in the door, walk in the class.
Right, I think that...
You know, they might not want to holler at you.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that does look back to the same thing where you run into a class and you see somebody who's not as educated in the dance form that they're teaching. It's the same for a studio owner. You have to let them know, this is why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. This is why I teach this way. This is why I teach what I teach. And you definitely should respect it because of this reason, because of that reason. And if it wasn't for this, then you wouldn't have that. I can't think of the last time that if you're serious about dance and dance culture, and not just street styles, you know, but any dance form, when you really look at it, the people who are really making buku bucks are the dancers that are doing street styles, are the dancers who came from the streets and are super creative, not so much the people who are super technically trained. Because for those who are super technically trained, part of their main goal is to get into a specific company. Yeah. And, you know, hopefully live their life, if the company works out for them, hopefully live their life working for this company. But, you know, that has a limit to it, you know, depending on the company. Some people, you know, might be superstars and can then branch out from that. But some people who are in a company will just be in that company, and once their career has shifted, that's it. That was your career. Not that that's not illustrious, but you look at any pop star, any music star, especially now with K-pop going out, all the choreographers for K-pop are usually Americans, street style dancers, you know. It just bears in mind that the money is here. You know, the money is here. So if you're approaching it from a money aspect, street styles are the money. I can't recall the last time Beyonce went out and said, I need 6 jazz dancers.
I guess we can move the conversation because I don't feel like I'm dogging studios.
Right, no, we're not, because we're in the studio.
Yeah. It's more about just
finding
about
respect.
how do we connect.
Yeah, finding that respect to...
so that everybody gets a piece of that pie and that people aren't being left out intentionally for silly reasons.
Yeah,
but
we do want to definitely highlight that we are saying from just our experiences, we have had to kind of dogfight to get the respect. Whereas if a different technique teacher came in, it would be like, oh, okay, that's cool. How many classes do you want? Whereas us, if we wanted to teach just one class, it was a definite fight to get that one class. So that's the only variation. We're not dogging studios, trust me.
And for the local studios, I definitely know that there are, you know, economic limitations, obviously, and there's also connections limitations.
Yeah.
They might not know the people. If you're trying to open up like a new dance studio or something and you don't know who to call and you don't know who to look up, you don't know who to email or whoever to, you know, like, so the first thing that comes to mind is like, okay, who's hot on YouTube, you know, who's hot on Instagram and all that stuff. And those, I'm just gonna say, like, those are not always the best, you know, obviously it's not the best option at all.
Yeah.
Because those are just trends, you know? Like, what are the trends that are happening at the moment? And so you want, if I was to give any advice to people that's trying to just do like a local studio thing, and if you're trying to find a street style dancer, I would say, who's still in the game? Not like who's who's trending right now. Don't be like, who's trending right now? It's more like, okay, who's still doing it like now that was doing it 10, 15, 20 years ago? And those are the people that you want to reach out to and call, like Eclipse, like Eccentric, like Bosco, you know. And one other thing is also like the power, I think the power of dance in general, and also especially in street styles, because it brings in the creativity aspect, is like, this happens, y'all, if parents are watching this, you know, this happens to your kids all the time. Your kids will be into soccer, your kids will be into football, or be into you know, some type of other sport, like basketball or something like that, like when they were young, and then come middle school, high school, they start to not like it and they quit. And the reason why they do that is because it becomes too competitive. It's more about the competition and more about, you know, the tournament or whatever, the league, or the football league or the soccer league they're in, and less about their creativity anymore. With us, it's both together. You know, with street style, there's always come with ciphering. It always come with sharing, always come with battling, it always come with a competition and a show or a performance, like a recital. So there's always something your kid's gonna look forward to, whether it's a battle, a competition, a show, or a cipher, or a jam, or a live, you know, Zoom thing nowadays. And then we're not taking away the creativity part of it. It's still there. The reasons why your kids are quitting their sports that they used to like to do is because it's becoming like too, you know, it's too
lopsided.
It's too like repetitive. It's too what's the word? Yeah, it's too like, okay, you gotta win this next game. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. It's like, okay, I'm just tired. Like, I just want to just like, you know, have fun. Like, you know, where's that? Like, you know, and the reason why they liked it when they were younger is because it was fun and it was creative. With dance and street styles, you know, all the different street styles, the creativity part is always there. Yeah. And the competition part is still there too, you know, so you can still be competitive and you can still be creative, so, you know, so just throwing that in there.
Definitely.
And it's still athletic, so you still keep your kids healthy, you know, you're an adult, you know, you want to keep healthy, and 31 years old, I'm still dancing, so, you know, and you were saying,
I'll be 40. We can have some trouble.
So like, we touched on it a little bit earlier when you mentioned, you know, your time in Shanghai, where you were out there dancing on contract, and then talking about the opportunities for street dancers, and the difference between the opportunities for a street dancer versus a classically trained dancer. And I agree with you that just by nature of the way street dance is created, we are more encouraged to be ourselves, to be individuals. So you're going to see people get on more as individuals. So when they get on, they're going to have an agent, they're going to have contracts specific to themselves, just as a contractor, as a hired performing artist, as opposed to going to audition for a company and being part of the company, where the company gets hired to perform what the company performs or puts on so many shows or whatever, and you're just a dancer that's paid in the company. So yeah, there is definitely a bigger opportunity there. The question is only, you know, how many people place enough importance on street dance to pay people what they're worth. And there are those few people who get into those positions, and I think that number is climbing, which is dope. And I would like to see it just evolve and get better. But internationally now, and I know this can be a forever long conversation about how American street dance is viewed internationally, and how we are dealing with this problem that we're talking about, kind of connecting with different studios and different people who may or may not be knowingly misrepresenting the styles. how would we attack something like that internationally? And I guess first I would ask Bosco about how he originally thought of the American street dances, and then how he sees them now, and how he now looks at the rest of the world and what they think the American street dance looks like through your new understanding of the street dance.
Well, first of all, in Africa, like in Central Africa, like in Gabon, before I met you,
Yeah.
before I met you, we were just doing what we were seeing on YouTube and dance movies, but we didn't have the foundation of American street like hip hop, breaking, and locking, popping, and all that. And when I met you, brought you to Africa, you came there and you taught us the real foundation of what we were just seeing on YouTube, like all this dance like this. And now my vision changed, because I was like, okay, American street style is not like just what we were seeing on YouTube or in the movie. It's more. There is a history. There is a lot of foundation techniques and basic moves that we have to learn first in order to dance the style properly, like hip hop. Like I didn't know hip hop was about the bounce, the rabbit, all these things. I was thinking like, if you're just doing this thing, this is hip hop, So this is the problem of a lot of countries in Africa. They want to do, they want to dance like American street style, but we kind of lack of information, like the good information. So when I met you, I learned the real history, the real foundation, and now I don't see hip hop like the thing I was saying before. And now I find a connection between hip hop and what I'm doing. Like what you teaching me every day improve my style. If you can see, like when I came, like I was dancing on the rhythm, because in African dance we follow a lot the rhythm, because we just trying to find the groove. But now I'm trying to, according to the techniques of hip hop, I'm trying to use my footwork, African footwork, and hit the beat like I'm doing like hip hop, like something like this, like because I learn more and I learn the real stuff, I can improve my style. So this is my point of view before and now.
So that's good. So now that you have a better understanding of the American street dance and how these different grooves like hip hop, for example, and how it works, and then you're able to take this technique and merge it with your own style. This is what's interesting and very very important to remember about American street dance, is that when we're talking about street dance, we talk about the American street style dances. Dances made here in the United States. But the American street dances are not the only street dances in the world. So Bosco is a professional street dancer from Africa, and they have their own street dances. Like his country, Gabon, they have their own street dances. South Africa have their street dances. Ghana, Nigeria, they all have their own street dances. Okay, their own social dances, their own club dances that they do. And what's interesting is how he took what we do here, he changed his perception, because at first he thought what he was watching on, World of Dance or Hip Hop International was hip hop, right? He understood now these things are not all hip hop. Locking is not hip hop. Popping is not a hip hop dance. Like, all of these things are separate. So then he was able to focus and say, oh, hip hop, now I can add these things from hip hop into my personal dance styles from Gabon, and now he creates something different. But now I'm wondering if there are people that, are getting this information and are trying to do that same thing. And how many people have you spoken to, since you've been here to learn, and then what is their perception of what you're telling them? Are they accepting what you're saying? Are they pushing back? Are they arguing with you? Do they want to believe that you learned something? Like, I'm interested, like in France, when you talk to those people, France is a very big, I believe, problem when it comes to hip hop. Because they think they've created something new, some new hip hop. And they just doing our stuff a different way. But they really believe that they are making something new. I mean, and I could be wrong too. If any OGs, all right, out there watching this and I'm wrong, please send a message, post it on the comments and set me right. But I think that what they're doing is just taking what we did and just trying to do something slightly different and calling it something completely new and saying we created this in France.
So it's kind of difficult because they already have their perception of American style and American students like hip hop. They already have their perception, their vision of that. But I do believe when you keep telling someone something, just the way like hearing every day, you can understand. Like in a lot of countries in Africa, I'm trying to tell them like by understanding what they do first, say, okay, I understand what you do, what you're doing now, but this is the real information of what you are doing right now, in order for them to learn. A lot of people, they're receptive, that like they say, okay, I want to learn. A lot of people, they just like, oh, because, you know, it's United States, now you want to show us like, you know, things like that. But for me, it's not just about that. For me, it's about knowing the culture and have a better understanding, and so that you can understand yourself, understand the vision of this culture, and like make something grow for yourself, you know. So it's not that easy, but there is a lot of people who start to understand. In France, I have a lot of friends in France who's not that receptive because they think they're better, like the hip hop they dance right now, what they call new style, is better than hip hop in the United States. But what they call new style is just what in the United States we call New York style, you know. Just something like they just took and used as something they call new style. But there is no necessarily new style. Because new style is just a style from America. People was calling like New York style, you know. So what I want is my people, like in Africa, to understand hip hop is their heritage. Hip hop, they have to learn hip hop properly so that we can teach that properly and understand how to find the real connection between hip hop and what we do, have the good information, and give the legacy. That's why I'm here, you know, with you, trying to build that bridge. Because if we build that bridge, you guys can come and give the right information. But the right information comes by when you receive it, you say, okay, I want to do it. Because the responsibility is the first step of learning. And hope is the step of growth. So if you say you're responsible, like I'm responsible for the culture I represent, you're going to learn other culture. Because you're going to feel like, okay, I don't want you to feel like comfortable on what I'm doing. I want to grow more, so I want to learn more. So that's why Heroes Resident Academy is the best thing happening for my people and for every street dancer, because we can create that bridge. You know, people back home in Africa can, you know, travel by the grace and learn, and people here can go and learn that what we do as well.
And stop being siloed, y'all. Stop being in silos. Like we're out here to share, you know, like like I might be the outlier in the b-boy community because I love the other styles. You know, like I won't speak for everybody obviously, but I know there's some people out there that just, okay, this is the only thing I do, and they don't want to try other stuff, you know, like, and that's just making you a weak dancer, y'all. I'll just call you out right now. Y'all can Like, you could call me on the cypher and I can outdance all of y'all if you don't know. If you don't, you know, if you don't get into popping, you don't get into locking, you don't get into like, you know, hip hop, you don't go into whacking, like you're just gonna be a weaker dancer.
Like that's,
you know what I mean? So
you know what's deep about that, and we're not gonna get too deep into it, but back in the day, in a crew, like now we have specific style crews, right? Like there's a b-boy crew, a breaking crew, there's a popping crew, there's a, you know, locking crew. But back before, a crew had everybody in it. Like you had to, because what if you run up on your rival team from across town and you're all breakers and they showed up with breakers and a popper? Toast.
yeah.
You done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like y'all have to have multiple styles. Like one of my mentors here, Des, my cousin actually, Abdul Qadir, he would tell me, and we're gonna talk to him at some point as well, but he used to always tell me that he liked me as a dancer, not just because of what I did well, but because I could go from, he said I could do, this is the old school stuff, he said you have upstairs and downstairs. Like that's how they used to call it. They used to say, we going upstairs, which means you're gonna do all your dancing on your feet. So all the style like pop-in, hip hop, all of that stuff, even tops, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff, that's your upstairs. And then your downstairs was your down rock, your floor work, you know? So I was a breaker, but I could also pop. So he said, man, you know, people don't really focus on that. They focus on one thing and that's it. But if somebody come over to you with one extra thing, you done. And your job is to just be unstoppable. So you should know as much as you can if you claim to be, you know, that's it. But anyway, we'll get into that in another discussion.
yeah. That's a dissertation right there.
Right.
But yeah, like how the art of smoking people. Yeah, man. But yo, I appreciate y'all chilling. We've been on for like an hour already. So yeah, big up. I appreciate y'all being around. For all of y'all that are interested in rocking with us, we are definitely here for you. The Heroes Rise Street Dance Academy is a hub, a beacon of light in regards to the street style dances. And it's not just for people who want to come and take classes from us here at our location, but we are also able to travel to your places. So if there are any studio owners that are watching this, any people that are connected to studios or schools or whatever, we can bring the whole experience to you. Just contact us. We'll set up workshop time. We'll come in, do an entire intensive. We'll have different instructors running through the styles. We'll bring the banner with us. It'll be a whole thing, all right? Because our entire intent is to give you the closest experience to street style culture as we can within a studio setting. So until we get to open back up and we can have massive outdoor ciphers and battles, this is what we're going to try to do. Please hit us up. Don't be shy. We don't bite. We appreciate any of y'all that have watched this long. And make sure you jump on the website, heroesrisecincinnati.com, to keep up with the scheduling. Every week there's going to be a new instructor, and for the first 3 months, we're doing a promotional pricing for $99 a month for those of you that are looking to take street style dance for the long haul. And then of course there are drop-in rates. Just jump on the website to see what those are from month to month. So that being said, I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate y'all. We'll see you soon. Peace. Yeah, all right. Let's see. Oh yeah, 54 minutes. Woo-ha.